live. We are live. Ah, ah. Alright, so I don't know if it's working yet. Hello, hello, hello. Oh my gosh, it was 3 and then it was 825. Hi, hi. Alright, so I'm gonna do a little live situation with Sounds of Saving. I know how to invite people to an Instagram Live. That is one of my many skills. What is this? Oh, yes. Sounds of Saving. Or maybe I haven't. Or maybe I have. Amazing.
Hi.
Hello.
How are
I'm
you?
good. How are you?
Good. My name is Molly. Nice to meet you. I'm so happy to be with you today.
Yeah, me too. Can't wait to chat.
Yeah. So, my name is Molly Zive. I am a licensed therapist in San Diego, and I am with SOS, which is a nonprofit that uses music as a pathway for mental wellness, which I know that's been really useful in my own practice. I'd be curious to know about yours. I know we're on your profile, but would you mind just introducing yourself?
Yeah, hello. I'm Em Byhold. I'm a singer-songwriter artist in Los Angeles.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, I'm so happy to chat with you today. So I saw on the World Wide Web that you went to UCSD. Is that true?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What college were you
I
in?
was in sixth. Did you go also?
I did go also. So I was in Thurgood Marshall. So when I read that, I was very excited.
Yeah, that's awesome. I feel like you don't meet a lot of people who are like music adjacent in any way. Who went to UCSD. It's mostly like scientists.
Yeah, that's a nice way to put it. It's kind of a nerdy school, huh?
Yeah, a little bit.
What did you study while you were there?
I studied communications, kind of knowing I wanted to do music, because I was like, marketing in some ways is, well, UCSD doesn't have marketing, but communications was kind of the closest thing. And then I minored in business, and I don't know how much it translated, but I'm glad I did it.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you have any fond memories about UCSD or San Diego?
I mean, I loved just being by the beach. It's amazing what that can do for your mental health.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Just like kind of a reminder of how big the world is and like new perspective.
Mhm.
What about you?
Yeah, I think that I saw that you did fencing as well. I think I played volleyball, and even though it was like a commitment, it was something I look back on, and all my friends played volleyball. It was a good way to stay connected to the campus. Because the community or the campus life is a little hit or miss. I don't know if you experienced that.
Well, what's funny is I think that the campus was actually built so people couldn't protest. So there's no like main center because it's all just like pathways. So I felt the same. I mean, it's like 30,000 plus kids that go there, and I was on the fencing team, and I think it's nice to just have your like core 30 people or so.
Yeah. When did you graduate?
2020, straight into the pandemic in my living room. I was supposed to be studying abroad, and then it didn't work
Where
out.
were you going to study?
I was gonna go to Italy and Spain, and I was gonna study like art, basically.
That's so cool. Do you have a future trip plan to maybe make up for that?
Hopefully, music finds its way there somehow. I feel like that would make it all feel full circle, but not yet.
Beautiful. Yeah, I want that for you too. So let's just jump right in, if that's okay with you. I'm curious to know, as a fan of music, how did that help your mental health?
I mean, writing music has always been the way that I just process emotions. I feel like I say what I mean to say better in music than I do in like conversations. But also just like, listening to artists growing up especially just made me feel less alone, like namely Regina Spektor, Fiona Apple, Marina and the Diamonds I loved. Also, even, recently the song, like every little thing, it's gonna be all right. Like sometimes I just need to put that on because I know when I listen to that, I'm just gonna feel better.
Yeah, yeah. It's so funny that you mentioned that because I went to therapy last night and my therapist was singing that to me. We were talking about being at a reggae concert and how different a reggae concert is comparatively to different types of music. So it's just like, I don't know, that's a synchronicity for me. I don't know if you're a spiritual person, but I was like, yep, that definitely came through.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So you said that music has been a great way for you to kind of express yourself. How did you know that you had this ability to write music?
I was really fortunate to have a piano teacher that, like, while we focused on classical music and learning scales and stuff, he also taught me like chords and how to write and some like jazz standards and stuff and like how to improvise. And I think from there, I just kind of had a lot of fun experimenting with it. And I was really bad at practicing. So when I'd be practicing classical music, I'd start messing around with like notes that sounded cool in the piece and like, where could we go instead of where they're telling me to go because I don't like following the rules.
Hmm.
So, yeah.
A bit of a rebel. I can definitely resonate with that. I did not practice my piano skills, and my parents like made me go to lessons, and that's something I look back on and I wish I was a little bit more dedicated, but it sounds like you found your groove. You figured out what worked for you.
Not practicing and just writing my music, I think is what works. But it's actually bad because I should practice for shows, but like unless my team sets up a rehearsal, I will not. And then
Really?
like right before the show, I'll be like, do I remember the chords? And normally it works out, but I think it would have been good for me to get into like a practicing mindset.
Yeah. Well, what is your mindset? Like, do you have a ritual before you perform?
Um, I'll do like warm-ups for an hour, 30 minutes to an hour beforehand. Um, and then right before I go on stage, I'll just shake it out, which is actually something that my therapist told me to do. Sorry, not my therapist. She would tell me to do that though. My vocal coach. Because I used to just like stand still behind stage and like not move, and all the nervous energy would just like get stuck in my body, and then I'd get on stage
Mhm.
and be like ah. But if you like shake around and move, like it just makes you less nervous on stage. It's kind of amazing how that works.
Yeah, I was doing it just now. Yeah, somatically, how that even right before this interview with you, I was feeling my nerves and I was like, okay, go back to like the things that I remember, right? Shaking it out, breathing deeply, things like that.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's really good. And shout out to your therapist. That's great that you're in there. Are you currently in therapy?
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Has it been helpful for you? What are the ways that you've benefited from it?
It has been helpful. Um, I mean, I think it's always just helpful to like talk to someone
Mhm.
who doesn't have a stake in anything.
Mhm.
I guess your life they have a stake in because they're your therapist. But I mean, she's also just given me like tips or like whether it's breathing tips or like things I should say that help a conversation, or it's just like a nice outside perspective. I think what's funny about me is that I tend to kind of realize the solutions on my own, but I have trouble like making them happen
Mhm.
a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah. So you kind of need that accountability in a way.
I think so.
Mhm.
Or just someone to kind of like be like, you're right, your gut is right
Mhm.
about this. You know.
Yeah, I do know. I feel like a lot of, especially with my newer clients, I do a lot of permission giving. And there was like a time in my life where I was like, should I just start like printing out my own permission slips and like sending it to them? Because it was really powerful just like talking about it and then giving them permission. And then obviously, the real work is like when they start to give themselves permission, it's really beautiful to watch that. So I'm so happy that you're working on that with your therapist.
Yeah, me too. And that's such a good way to put it. Maybe I should start printing permission slips for myself.
I think they're good reminders. I'm such a big affirmation person too. I don't know if you do affirmations, but I put little post-its everywhere just to kind of remind myself that, that critical voice can be so loud internally sometimes that it's just nice to have those reminders that I talk about in therapy with my own therapist to be like, oh, I'm not as horrible as this critical voice is
Mhm.
saying.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I definitely struggle with a lot of negative self-talk. Um, and it's funny, I actually started, I wonder if I have that notebook here, but I don't know if I do, but oh wait, it's here. Doing like little free writes every morning where I would just kind of do a brain dump so my brain didn't have to hold on to it. And then um, it's this book called The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron. And it's just about like finding inspiration. And she tells you that when you do this, you should draw the monster that's like your negative self voice, and they're called the censor. So this is my censor, and
Yours is so cute.
he's cute, but he's mean.
Oh.
But it's honestly helpful to like look at it as like a separate entity that's not in your brain and be like, no, I'm just gonna like write whatever I write, and I'm not gonna, you know.
Yeah. It depersonalizes it. It takes that part of you out of it. I love that. Is such a helpful tool. Thank you for saying that and showing us your artwork. I think I've been in a lot of circles where the artist's way is like their whole way of being, and I haven't read it myself, but morning pages is really important to me. I sit behind me and sit on this yellow chair. I don't know if you can see, and I do my morning pages, kind of like what you're talking about, that brain dump.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is.
Are you have you read the whole book? It's okay. There's no like, I'm not scoring you on this. But
No,
I read it.
I need to. I like flip between a lot of books. It's kind of bad. I'm like ADHD when it comes to reading. I like get really interested in something. So currently I'm reading Dinners with Ruth Ginsburg.
Oh, cool.
Also interesting. But I do want to finish The Artist's Way eventually.
I'm the same way. I don't, it's like an inspiration thing for me. I just like, I go wherever I find inspiration, but I can never like start to finish a book unless it's like a really captivating book. But things like The Artist's Way or like The Course of Miracles, those type of books where it's kind of like a workbook, you're supposed to take your time, you know, you're supposed to really like savor each page.
I think that's part of the reason, that's actually what stopped me a little bit, is like, I want to make sure I like really get everything out of it. And I don't want to feel like I'm rushing through it.
Yeah, that's beautiful. That's a great intention. And then you could turn your attention to your other book. That's great. What are some other ways that you find mindfulness? I imagine, you know, being such a, what do you call it, a superstar, an artist, someone who's very popular, it's probably challenging to find mindfulness. Like, how do you disconnect from your phone? Do you disconnect from your phone?
Honestly, it's something I've been working on a lot in the past few months, because when I got off tour, I was like getting back into writing a little bit, and then I was like, no, I think before I like jump back into everything, I need to figure out my brain a little bit. So I've been setting more boundaries for myself, and like, you know, not maybe doing all the writing sessions that I'm supposed to be doing and meeting all these people, but just like kind of having a little more me time. Going on walks without my phone has been very helpful, just like talking with friends, and there's no technology anywhere. I've also started meditating recently, which I'm trying to do more often, but that's been very helpful. It's kind of interesting because yesterday when I tried it, I felt like the tangles in my brain. Like, you know, you have knots in your back? I like felt that in my brain, and I started thinking about like, what if we peeled one string off at a time, and like, just instead of being scared of this mess, like making baby steps, because I feel like it's obvious, but we tend to forget that.
Yeah. I think that, no, that's a really good point about meditation. And I have so many questions about meditation because it's one of my practices as well, is like the logic behind meditation, I think is really easy to get. It's like, yeah, you just pay attention to your breathing and you watch your thoughts float by, right? But the practice of it, that's a completely different thing. That's like, it's a practice, it's a discipline. There's no like reaching enlightenment. It's like something you come back to. What made you want to try meditation? What kind of sparked your interest?
I feel like I get anxious so easily, and it's something I've talked about with my therapist, but nearly every day I have this like lump in my throat, which she says is the anxiety. I mean, and it comes out, I feel it when I breathe, I feel it when I talk, I feel it when I sing. And I've been trying to figure out ways that mentally I can sort of like relieve myself of this lump and just feel a little more at ease. And yeah, I think meditation and having a little more control over my thoughts would be helpful. And I think, you know, with meditation, you kind of beautifully dissociate a little bit, where you realize that your thoughts aren't facts. And I feel like we all forget that.
Yeah, they can feel so real, right? They feel so true to us in the moment. Do you feel that lump in your throat right now? I'm just curious.
I do. I mean, I just live with it. It's, you know, but I'm working.
Is there time? Yeah, I love that you're working on it. Is there times where you don't feel it?
Yeah, I guess I don't notice when I don't feel it because I'm having fun or something.
You're in
You know?
the moment. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. What about on stage, like performing for people?
Um, yeah, yes and no. It's kind of funny. I go back and forth on stage fright. Um, the show that I felt the least amount of nerves for was my biggest, where the audience was so far away. It was like so many people, it was a stadium, it was huge, but I couldn't see their faces. So in my head, I was like this is a video game simulation and these aren't real people. Like just that mentality helped me get through it.
Uh-huh.
But like when I can see expressions, even if they're nice, I don't know, I'm scared because you feel yourself being perceived, and that's just freaky.
That
Like
is freaky.
a little.
Yeah, I feel like I'm getting like a small little taste of what it's like to be in your brain, being perceived. That's such a like that. I'm glad that you're identifying these things. You seem very self-aware.
Thank you. Sometimes to a fault. I'm like a little too aware of things. I wish I could be a bit more like blah, but I'm always thinking about everything.
Yeah, yeah. And but it sounds like you have all these strategies and you have all these strategies that really are helping you kind of wrangle that in. I mean, when you think about like where you want to be in your life in terms of like the lump in your throat or like where you want to be with your mental health, what does that look like for you?
Honestly, I would love to reach a point where I can trust myself more
Mhm.
and where I don't care about what anyone else thinks because I'm in a point where like I've been asking for a lot of opinions from my label and my management and my parents and my friends. I'm like, what do you think of this song? What do you think of this song? Because I just don't have a gut feeling on some things, and then I'm also like, oh, the song is so different to what I've been releasing. Like, would my audience like it? And I think I'm just too worried about everything outside, and that's part of the reason I've been taking a step back to work on my mental health because I just want to trust myself more because I'm the person that got me to this place. So
Well, yeah.
I need to remember that, you know?
Yeah. And I'm so proud of you for saying that you're taking a step back because I think that a lot of people would see success, whatever that looks like for them, and just want to keep going, keep pushing, keep like burning themselves out. So it takes a lot of bravery to say that out loud. And I just appreciate you saying that.
I think, well, thank you. There's definitely been a level of burnout from the last year. I feel like when I reached a point of success, like bigger than I had dreamed of, honestly, it was not what I thought it was going to feel like.
Mhm.
Like, you kind of imagine that everyone who's successful has everything together and they have the money and they have the friends and they like, but no, it was hard. And I feel like I wasn't eating normally or sleeping normally or really maintaining any friendships. I barely had time for myself. Um, I was kind of saying yes to everything because I didn't really know what to say no to. So I was just like burning the candle at both ends.
Mhm.
And also just like I didn't really have time to follow my gut and like realize what I really wanted. I was just sort of doing it all, and that's another part of stepping back. It's just like, having a viral song with No Little Bug was an incredible experience, but there was no groundwork that was laid as an artist. Like what are the visuals? What's the sound? What's this and that? It all was just like this. And all that
Mhm.
takes a lot of time to figure out. So I've been trying to put less pressure on myself of like, keeping up the momentum, but instead just like, okay, but what do I want? Like outside of all that.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And like that's what's sustainable. I think that that's really nice. Something that you did mention, Numb Little Bug. I watched the video. I also love your video 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Is our videos as fun as you make it look? Because you look like you're having the best time ever.
Thank you. They're fun. They're a little stressful,
Are
but
they?
I mean, the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 video, we filmed and then we got a cut back and it just wasn't quite right. And I was in Europe and we were trying to figure out the timeline and everything because timelines are really stressful in the music industry. Um, and then we ended up actually doing a reshoot day when I got back. And the reshoot part is the how to cope with the panic attack section at the end because I just kind of wanted to hit the nail on the head a little bit more. Um, but I am happy with how it turned out
Yeah.
after all that.
Yes, it is. It looks really great. And I feel like, did you have any say in the creative direction of it? It was just so both those videos are so cute, and I felt like I knew you as a person. Like I wanted to be your
Oh,
friend, this person's friend. Yeah.
thank you for saying that. I mean, for the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 video, I just said I want to be in a museum of anxiety, and like the song's about dealing with panic attacks, so just like how do we visualize that? And I also wanted it to be very Wes Anderson-y style, which I think they nailed. Like I love those quick whips back and forth and like
Mm-hmm.
the silliness. And then for Numb Little Bug, that one I received treatments of ideas, and the one that I went with was an incredible director named Jaime Valdueza. But he had sent this visual of like me floating upside down, and honestly, that visual alone was what made me think like, yeah, that's correct, because it was just kind of visually showing what anxiety looks like. And same with like being in a car stuffed with balloons, just like how do we show those feelings?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You do a really good job of showing and speaking to those symptoms, but I think you also do a really good job of talking about context. You mentioned things like pyramid scheme or capitalism, you know, like living in these systems that we're living in and how that does impact our mental health. Can you say a little bit about that?
I just like to call things out how they are.
Yes.
But also with the pyramid scheme line in particular, I actually did almost get recruited to a pyramid scheme for real. And I didn't know what that was.
Same. Oh my gosh. Did it start with Rich Dad Poor Dad? Please tell
No.
me. Okay, okay. Sorry.
But
Go on. Please go on.
it was actually a UCSD alum. So basically it was like into the pandemic, I was applying to every job ever and not hearing back. And then someone messaged me on LinkedIn and they were like, how'd you like to make money? And I was like, of course I like to make money. And then I ended up having like a call with them and then this like Zoom thing. And it was funny because they kept explaining the job without actually explaining the job and like the title and stuff like that. So I was a little sus. And then they wanted me to read an entire book in like 3 days and get back to them.
Do you know what the book was?
It was like the four quadrants or something like that. Like
okay. I think that's another one. But for me, it was Rich Dad Poor Dad. But that's their like, you're giving me this book back in a week. I was like, I'm not doing that.
Right.
Okay, continue. But I definitely had this experience.
That was the biggest red flag to me. But at first I think I was excited because I was having such bad luck on the job search that I was like, oh, finally. So I told my dad, and he was like, Emily, that's called the pyramid scheme. I was like, what? And then, you know, I had to like put it in a song.
Yeah, I love that you put context to that, and it's relatable to me. I don't know if anyone else has been kind of swindled into a pyramid scheme. But yeah, getting back to anxiety, what has it been like for you to sort of advocate and talk about anxiety? How have your fans been connecting to that message?
I mean, it's funny because when I first did Numb Little Bug, I played it for my parents. And they're both like, you are saying too much. Like, are you sure you want to put this out into the world? Because this is really intense. And also my mom specifically was like, when you put pill bottles in a video, that's like a sign of weakness. Like employers want to hire you because they're like, you're showing that you're on meds and it's very taboo. And I was like, you know, honestly, with like the rise of TikTok and Instagram and just like oversharing, I feel like everyone knows everyone's business and like everyone knows that we're all in therapy. We're all like, we need a little help. So why not be open about it instead of trying to hide it? And then, yeah, I think once the fan response came in of everyone kind of unfortunately resonating with the song, but also saying, you know, I realized I wasn't alone, so I talked to my therapist or I talked to my family and now I feel better. Like that kind of made my parents understand more, like, you know, everyone's in this together. It's not just me being, I don't know, a millennial, like telling everything.
Yeah. Yeah, well, it's just such a different generation. I know that when I started therapy for my panic disorder in high school, everyone kind of looked at me like I had 5 heads. I'm a little bit older than you, and it just wasn't like the culture that it as it is now. Like I think that that's the benefit of TikTok and social media and Instagram is like there's so many more resources now. And when you go up there and you talk about all those things, it gives, especially I think about younger people, like I don't know if younger people have reached out to you, but you get to kind of be that role model for them in a way.
Well, what's kind of amazing is like when I meet some of these people at the shows, like the ages really range. There's really young kids that I wouldn't expect to resonate with that song, and maybe they don't totally know what it means, but they just the beat or something. And then there's also like I mean, I love meeting like seniors
Mm-hmm.
who resonate with it, because
Mm-hmm.
I think I didn't really mean to write a song that I think could hit different types of people, but
Mm-hmm.
I feel really special that Numb Little Bug was able to do that, you know?
Yeah, it is really special. What did you have an intention going into it? You said that you didn't expect that, or that wasn't your intention, but what was the intention of writing that
I was
song?
on antidepressants, and it was also when I had another song called Groundhog Day that was going viral. And it was, yeah, I was just kind of doing everything, and I was burnt out, and I also didn't really care about anything, but I was doing everything. And I wrote the first half of it just on piano, like, I don't feel a single thing, because that's just how I felt. And I also want to say that for some, antidepressants are immensely helpful, but the ones that I was on in particular just made me feel very flatlined, and it's important to find the ones that are right with your bodily chemistry. Um, but it was, I mean, I wrote it for me because I was like, I want to write a song, but I don't feel anything. So how do I write a song about not feeling anything?
Mhm. I think you nailed it. I think I was just talking about this with my cousin who unfortunately suffered from postpartum and the same sort of thing. She's this very creative person and she wasn't feeling low, but she also wasn't feeling any of the highs, especially of just having a baby. So it's really interesting. Not that there's, I think antidepressants are great for symptom management, like you said, like just find the ones that work for you and what's right for you. You know, that's not right for everyone, but also like the prescribing of it. I don't know what your experience is. It's a lot of frontline workers. It's a lot of primary care doctors, gynecologists, you know, people who may, you know, not a lot of people have access to psychiatrists. So when you're able to say out loud that I've taken these things, people, that gives other people access or permission to maybe look into that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Great. No, it's wonderful. I'm so glad that you, what has it been like for you with your success in talking about mental health? Did you ever think that you were going to be this person that is just so open and vulnerable about their mental health?
um, no, but like, I don't know how to be fake.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know how to be anyone other than myself. Which I think is a good thing, but also sometimes I'm like annoyed with myself because I'm like, you can only be this sort of like absurdist, silly girl. But that's who I am. And I'm really glad that I can be that, because I feel like, you know, growing up, I had musicians that felt like my friends, and I felt like they kept me company even when like school was hard and this and that. And so I think to be that for other people is like the greatest reward, and really bigger than any sort of like statistics around anything.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Are there any expanders for you? That's what I call them, is like people who are just so vulnerable and it kind of allows me to be that expansive. Do you have anyone that you look up to?
Um, in my life, or like famous
Oh,
people?
oh, both, whatever resonates.
I mean, I have a lot of deep conversations with my mom. Like, we talk about everything, and I feel super fortunate about that. And also just like my friends. I mean, I'm such an open book. It's a problem, probably. Uh, I mean, there's definitely people online that have been open about their mental health. For some reason,
That's good.
I can't think of a name off the top of my head, but I do appreciate that about TikTok, where and Reels too, where like it's allowed people in Medium to just speak and be honest, and stop showing this like fake life.
Mhm. I love the realness. I love authenticity. I really gravitate towards people who just keep it real, but it kind of reminds me, I think it's a Dave Chappelle skit where keeping it real goes wrong or something like that. And it's like you kind of find yourself like keeping it a little too real sometimes. There's definitely those moments of like cringiness, but like I think that's what TikTok and Instagram and social media has kind of put out there for us, is like this idea of perfection doesn't exist and we all get to be who we want to be and authentic and not carbon copies of each other, which it,
Mm-hmm.
you know, that exists too, right? But with you, there's just such a level of authenticity. I imagine that you're such an you're one of my expanders, by the way. When I found you, I was like, wow, this is so expansive for me to have someone be so open and honest and vulnerable. So I appreciate that so much.
Thank you for saying that. That means a lot.
Yeah, of course. So is there anything else that you feel like you want to share while we're on the live that maybe I didn't ask?
Um, I guess like Can you talk a little bit about Sounds of Saving and the work that
Yeah.
you guys do?
Yeah. So I am part of the Therapist Council Advisory Council, and I actually had the opportunity to go to a music festival called Reset. That's how I got involved with them. It was really fun. I got to see Steve Lacy, and so we sat at a booth and we had these really beautiful little cards where people could fill out 3 cards that are really meaningful for them or that have made a mental health impact.
Mm-hmm.
And then on the other side, they can write a story or draw a picture of what that song meant to them, and just connecting with the audience. I think that music really puts people in this sort of trance. I don't know if you've, especially after COVID, I don't know if it's like my level of appreciation of going to music festivals, but it just seems like there's this like really beautiful community. And so when we could talk to each other about mental health and advocate for that, and we had a QR code on our booth that also had local resources for people who need to reach out. And they do some other really amazing things where they bring artists into schools, into New York, and they have a therapist and they talk to youth about mental health and music. And so, yeah, it's all about advocacy. It's all about getting people connected. And then they also do these things like create content, Take a Beat, which thank you so much for being a part of, where artists are able to talk about, their own struggles with mental health or how music has helped them transmute some of those symptoms with their mental health and kind of normalizing it. I think it's a really beautiful organization and I'm really happy to be a part of it.
Well, if you want anyone to go to schools, I'll come.
Okay, you heard it. Okay, you heard it first. Hot take. So we're it looks like I went on your website and it looks like you're playing in Orange County. And I was like, oh, I'm just gonna mosey up the 5 and go see her, but it's sold out. Is that typical? Are you just selling out everywhere you go?
Oh, I don't know about that. I mean, I'm opening for AJR, so I feel like AJR sold out, and then I'm just along for the ride.
That's cool.
But, yeah, I mean, hopefully one day there are some talks of a headline eventually. I don't know any details on that yet, but
that's really exciting. That's really exciting. Well, thank you so much again for your time. I had such a fun time connecting with you today.
Yeah, me too. Thank you so much.
Have a good rest of your day. Take care.
Bye. And bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.